Hello everybody, that was a kind introduction and need to live up to the expectations now. Alright, can I have my slides please? Very much. While we do that, this is going to be a bit of an interactive session, so I actually need your help to make sure we do this right. And to do that, I want you to participate. And as the slides are going to be coming up, you will have a choice. Because this speech can go in two possible directions, and you guys have full choice of where it's going to go, left or right. Which ones am I going to click? Am I going to be clicking in the left direction or in the right direction? And to do that, I have a simple question to you. Do you believe in free will? If you do, right now, if you believe in free will, raise two hands right now. Okay, and if you do not believe in free will, raise two hands right now. Okay, so we're going to the right direction because, okay, I guess universe wants us to go into the left direction, and it's saying, you know, there is no free will, man. Like, no free will available to you because you have to go, okay, let's go left. Oh, they put the last slide to begin with. All right, fair enough. Okay, so we're going to go to the right direction, and we're going to assume, for the sake of the argument, because most of you guys seem to believe into, and girls, into free will. And what that means is that Tartu believes in free will. And let me tell you a little bit about free will, and I believe that it is a very important topic because it has grave consequences on your lives. You see, free will, most scientists and philosophers and psychologists, they want there to either be free will or they want it to actually be non-existent. And the argument is just that, it's either or. And my feeling is that, well, why can't it be both? Why can't we live in a life where there is both free will and not? And see, the choices between these three options are very important. Because if you do not believe in free will, that means you cannot be held accountable or responsible for anything. Right? If you commit a crime, it is not your fault. You have no free will. That means just that life made circumstances which create the possibility for you to take action which is against the law. It's not your fault. But if there is free will, on the other hand, then everything that you do is fully your responsibility. And it's fully your accountability, and everything is your fault. And basically people go like, well, that's a tough decision, right? You either take full accountability for everything, or you're a robot. And we don't want to be a robot, and so a lot of people choose to believe in free will because that's more comfortable. I do believe that there's a third way. I believe that human beings can actually act in both modalities. I believe that it is possible to act like in a computer game, where you live in flow until there's a decision point. And then you can exercise free will. I think very often we live in the flow and we forget that we actually have free will, that we can make choices. We think, and we want to think, as everybody showed with the audience, that there is free will. But when it comes to the decision making, very often we just do the same thing every day, over and over again, changing nothing in our lives and still thinking that we have free will. I believe that one of the easier ways to deal with it is to actually go, well, actually, what if I sometimes admit that I don't have free will and I'm living in the flow state. But sometimes when important decisions, like coming to Tartu and like making a choice on stage in front of a speaker, whether free will or not is possible, then I can actually make that choice. And I believe that is very important because that brings me to the question of responsibility. Because you see, if you have free will, you must take at least some form of responsibility. But unfortunately, many people choose not to do that. And I can understand why. Responsibility is basically, if you look into Latin, it comes from the word responsus, which means to respond. It's not actually responsibility, it's an ability, it's just to respond. So actually, when you look at the word, all it really means is that you have the choice to respond to events that happen to you. You have full chance to, take action. And actually, only in 1600s did we realize that maybe that's not enough, and we have to add this accountability thing and say, well, if you have this free will and you can take responsibility, you actually also have to be accountable for what you do. But what makes it really interesting is that not many people want to take this responsibility because you have a choice. If you don't if you don't take responsibility, there are some benefits to it. And many people think that these benefits outweigh all the possible costs. For example, if you live a life without responsibility or with limited responsibility, then you get a lot of attention, right? You go, well, you know, my boss is really bad and this company is not working very well and I keep trying to change things in the company, but he keeps like pushing me down, it's his fault, I'm trying my best. And then all your friends go, oh, you poor thing, like that's really bad, you know, I feel for you. And then the next day you go like, well, you know what, today it's not the boss, but the government is at fault. Now, how could they, you know, I voted about Brexit and, you know, it was a swing vote, I wasn't so sure, but now I have to go through the whole thing, the government is at fault. And your friends go, yeah, I know, I agree with you, you know, Brexit and everything, like, horrible. But the problem with this is that, you know, you keep doing it enough, and you will start losing friends. Because if you all the time complain about things, eventually they'll get tired of telling you how poor and sad you are. But then you have the other benefit, there is no risks, right? When you have no responsibility, you take no risks. Because, well, you know, you can just sit at home, do nothing, take absolutely no action because you don't have to. There is no responsibility and therefore you don't have to take any action and you can never be at fault. Which brings me to the next point, which is, it's never your fault. Right? Whatever happens, you can always find somebody to blame. And you say, poor me, I have no responsibility and therefore when I try to innovate within the company, they keep not giving me any budget to innovate. It's not my fault. I'm doing my best. When you have a bad relationship and at home, in your personal life, and you say, well, I have a bad relationship and it's just, you know, my girlfriend is sad all the time and it's her fault, right? Poor you, it's never your fault. But that's nice, right? You kind of like that when it's never your fault, you have no risks and everybody likes you. And then of course, you're always right, right? You're always right. If you have no responsibility, you kind of think, well, you know, it's actually quite a nice thing because it's always everybody else's fault and it's never my fault, therefore I'm always right. And you kind of go in the world and be like, what kind of weird world it is where I'm always right but I'm still unhappy. Very, very weird world. But many people really like this approach and I don't blame them because I can see the benefits, right? There are clearly benefits of being a victim. And that's why it happens so much, why most of us, including myself, experience this to some extent. And the question is, to what extent? On the other hand, there's an alternative option that you may take, and that is a life of full responsibility. And it has a lot of costs. The costs are massive, right? Because basically you say, whatever happens to me, it's my fault. And that's very hard to do because you don't want to be at fault and you don't want to be wrong. And you don't want to feel bad and you want everybody to say nice things to you. And when you take a life of full responsibility, that doesn't happen that often. It happens much less. But then you have full control, right? That means you can take any decision you make. You can leave the country you don't like. You can start a new job. You can tell your boss that they're wrong. You can actually start innovating within the company. We've helped many companies do this. And they start innovating and they start going like, oh, I don't have a budget, no problem. I'll convince some of my friends and we're going to start innovating in the company anyways. We're going to introduce more people to the team. We're going to start this innovative project without the budget. But then, of course, eventually they leave the companies because they take full responsibility and they have to do something more fun. But if the boss keeps saying no, they go like, well, I can use my responsibility to do something else. And of course, you're much more emotionally stable, I find, because you take responsibility for everything, and therefore nothing can really hurt you anymore. Nothing can really get through, because whatever happens, you try to bring it back to yourself. Say you come at home, to your home, and you have your partner, and you go like, if you're not responsible, you say, well, you're very sad, you know, why are you so sad? Why are you having such a bad day? And then you blame them for everything. But when you're full responsible, you come home, and then before you say that they're very sad, you realize, wait, if it's my responsibility, maybe it's me who's really sad. Maybe I'm just really sad, I had a tough day, and I want to find a conflict. After a conflict, you can also think about it and be like, what did I do wrong? Actually sit down. It's okay to have conflicts. But then you sit down and be like, what could I have done differently to make it different? In a work environment, this happens very often. It's very easy to blame your employees, especially if you're CEO. One option, as a victim, if your say salesperson accidentally sells a product for 40% discount and you make zero money, one thing is to go, well, it's your fault, you're fired. How can you possibly sell something with such a discount? And the other option is to do the opposite and be like, well, tell me about your thought process. How did you arrive that it's okay to give a 40% discount on a product that has costs that are this high? And then they might be like explaining to you, well, we never talked about it, and your metrics in the company for success are actually the number of deals we make. We have a goal to have 15 deals. So I made everything possible to just have more deals. And then you go, oh, thank you for that information. Now we can change the goals. Now we can change our recruitment process, and we can improve our company. And that's a totally different mindset. Then you don't blame the employee. It's always your fault. So you just make it better. And that means you have a lot of freedom. You can do what you want. Right? You can do anything you want because you have full control. You're not a robot, except when you're in flow state, which is a very nice state as well. So how do you do that? And it's very, very difficult, but the way I do it, and the way I think you could try to do it, even if you don't like anything I'm saying right now, because this is difficult, is to take extreme version of this responsibility. I do this to the extreme in my mind. And this will sound very extreme, but for me, if right now, into this conference, came a man with a machine gun and killed everybody, including myself, I would say it's my fault. Right? I would say it is absolutely my fault. I went to an event that has a lot of people, the risks are a little bit higher, and I knew that this is a risk. It's absolutely my fault. And the only difference is that if I am thinking that way, I'm going to actually do something about it. I'm going to, right behind the stage, try to find another machine gun and kill him. Whereas if I'm a victim, I'll go, oh shit, there is a person who is willing to kill me, and therefore, well, too bad. So, what I'm saying is that when you go to the extreme, I'm not saying that this is, that's how I think all the time. But when you go to the extreme, you learn what are the benefits and what are the costs. So all I'm trying to say to you is, and ask you to try, is that just like in the beginning of this talk, you have a choice. You can go left and remain in the state of no responsibility or limited responsibility, or you can go right and take full responsibility. And I believe that all of you are on some sort of a scale between, zero responsibility to extreme responsibility like me. And I ask you to take this level one step higher for a day, right? Just for one day. Just go for one day and take absolute full responsibility for everything that happens to you. And you can have fights and problems, but at the end of the day, sit down and write down what could I have done differently to make sure that my life today was different. Thank you. With that, I'm actually supposed to stay on stage and take full responsibility for this stage. And I would like to invite Rain Sepp on stage, who we've been working together as a mentor-mentee for some time. Welcome, Rain.
Hi, Dima. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good to see you again. Thanks. Extra water. Good. Thank you. And we'll sit down and we'll talk, and maybe we'll take some questions from the audience. But what we're going to be talking about is how to be a mentor and mentee. But also, I'd love to bring this responsibility topic to it,
Sure.
because I think one of the most important things is in any relationship is actually to take action after you know you have that responsibility. So let's take a seat. I'm going to take my camera, which is my full responsibility because I don't trust that camera will record me. And we have a live session actually going on. I'll put it right here. And you can have a seat. All right. Okay, how are you? I'm good. It is actually a bit strange to go from a talk straight into a Q&A session.
Right, put your thumbs down.
Yeah, it's a different type of feeling, very different dynamic.
Right.
So we worked together for a bit, and in this program I was the shadow mentor, and that basically means that I'm not the main mentor helping you, but I actually observe on the side. And I think that's why we're sitting here today, because I was observing your process of working with the mentor. And I think this is something we could discuss today about the mentoring process, right? And I mean, the first thing I want to ask is like, why did you choose with your full responsibility to take on the role of the mentee? I mean, you've been successful, you've done great things, you've built companies, you've exited, you know it all, so to speak, right? And yet, here you go, and you decide to have a mentor. Why?
Sure. For me, there's a lot of perspective why you need mentor, and I actually want to ask you at some point why you mentor people. That's much more interesting maybe, but being a mentee or having a mentor, I think is really one of those, like, it's a crucial thing you just have to have, especially if you're a founder. It doesn't matter your experience, or it doesn't matter your network, or the type of people you meet and talk about founders and so forth. I think being a founder can be quite often actually rather lonely place to be, and having a good mentorship relationship with somebody who's actually able to and willing to spend some time with you help to often not even give you a direct advice as such, but help you to discover some things or some perspectives which are hidden for you is really important thing.
Yeah, I actually agree very much with that. What I found in working with many startups and writing about them and working with investors is that founders are some of the loneliest people I've ever met.
They are often, yeah.
Surrounded by the most amount of people I've ever met. There's hundreds and hundreds of people around founders, and they go to events, and then back at home in their soul, they're very lonely. I've had some founders who, specifically mentioned that, that I have so many people around me. And
well, you do. I have my family, my really lovely family, and we're very close. We share business as well with my girlfriend. You have loads of friends, and you have a very good relationship with other founders. So lots to share. I mean, a lot of people you could actually share, and but still, I mean, being there every day in a business. In fact, you are quite lonely, and that's this responsibility thing. Perhaps, like, you are end of the day fully responsible for what's going on in there. You have very few people, if any, actually, nobody to go and ask something. You need to come up with those. I mean, all the issues, all the problems are actually coming and landing to your desk or in front of you.
And everybody sees that you should have all the solutions and all the answers, right? Like,
should, yeah.
Every employee thinks that you know everything, right?
Yeah, you need to. I mean, if nobody else has it, you have to have it, right? You need to be able to keep the ball moving, so to say.
And is it hard to admit to your employees that you don't know everything?
It can be very hard, I think. It depends. I mean, you can always go and say, like, I don't know either, let's go and figure it out, let's test it, or things like that, very practical, obviously. You can't have all the answers, obviously, but at the end of the day, you need to do some decision or some call, which way you're going to go. Are you going the right or the left?
Yeah.
Right?
I think you have to make a lot of these decisions.
You have to make a lot of those. And
I think the difficulty is when you decide not to make them. It's one of the worst decisions you can make is to make non-decisions. That's for sure.
So if having this relationship, having a mentor, having somebody who you can actually trust, fully trust. You can share your thoughts, you can share the business issues, but oftentimes you want to actually share your personal issues as well. You really want to kind of open up, or completely strip yourself. So it's like, okay, this man, I trust him, I could go back to him or her, and I can talk to things the way you actually see them. That's kind of clear to me. Why do you do that? Why you are mentoring?
Why I'm mentoring? Well, because surprisingly, I was never lucky enough to find a permanent mentor. And because of that, I think subconsciously, I was trying to figure out how to learn. And I think by being a mentor, I learned a lot, right? So when I'm a mentor, one of the principles that I do is whenever I tell any mentee to do something, I do it. Right?
Okay, so you're gonna go the same.
So I have one mentee where I said, look, do a type form asking your employees what they think your role is as a CEO and what they think you should do. And then, of course, I have to do the same type form now,
Sure.
right? Like, I started doing it, I'm sending it out tomorrow, right? So I'm going to do that type form and send it out. And by being a mentor, I think it really, like, you really learn. Because one thing I figured out, and I think this is important no matter what you do, is that you actually have all the answers also inside. So whenever somebody asks me a question, I have actually a Telegram group where anybody can ask me any question. And I try to give back. But
That's a great group, actually.
Yeah,
You should join.
you were in that group as well. But the cool thing for me is that very often when people ask me a question, before they ask the question, I didn't know I have the answer. But the moment they ask it, the knowledge is like, oh, I know the answer. But before the question appeared, I had no idea I even possibly remotely knew the answer. And if it's more technical questions, then I go research and figure it out and then learn, right? But to me, it's also like interesting to see, like, you know, who can be a mentor. And I think there's many different options.
That's an important thing. That before coming in here, I thought, what are the kind of main things, like who is the right mentor, or what is the right relationship in there? And I think there's many answers to that. But one of the things what's important to me is obviously you need to be having this relationship you can trust person in all the senses, and we heard about the trust like 30 minutes or more in here in quite deep level. But it's also important that your mentor is not your friend. It's not a friendship. It's not like you're sitting here, two pals, and we're just kind of going over the conversation, making that too comfortable. One of the criteria is me to choose a mentor, mentors, was to make sure that it's actually quite uncomfortable. They're the people who are not giving you the easy time. They're the people who actually challenge you. And through the challenge, you'll be able to actually then develop as a person, as a leader of the business.
I wouldn't be a good mentor if I didn't challenge people.
Sure.
So I'm going to challenge you. So you said that a good mentor is a mentor you can trust. What would it be like to be mentored by a person you can't trust?
Very difficult to imagine that.
But do you think that difficulty might make you grow?
You need to. I mean, it's because of this relationship up there where you're super lonely, and that's the person walking the video, not all the way, but being very close to you in that sense. You just need to have somebody you can trust. You should be able to talk like real conversations, real things, what's happening inside you, or trusting somebody also to kind of rip you to the pieces time to time, and allow you to discover why things are the way they are. Or I can't imagine that without being able to trust a person.
What creates trust for you?
That's a good question, because we didn't know before that. Neither I did know other mentor. I think it's the feeling in there, and trust is something what develops over time. It doesn't just appear, like it's not, I trust you. I think it's the real trust is coming up. And when I first joined Kokon, my expectations were completely different. My expectations were really low, actually. This week now, I've learned to know people. I trust them a lot more, and I feel much better in this situation. So it's something that you can develop over time.
Do you trust yourself? Sorry to ask you about 300 people, but just curious.
Yes, I have to say yes. I have no other option. I need to take this responsibility and say I do trust. Trusting on, like trust overall, a general trust, obviously, but trusting yourself of being able to do something, or trusting yourself on some situation, that's more questions. So you don't want to jump if you...
Trusting yourself to trust people.
Come again?
Trusting yourself to trust other people.
Yeah.
Is it hard for you?
It's not hard really, but it's not obvious either. It doesn't just appear, probably. You need to actually spend some time and some work in there.
So use your default mode. Like, you enter in the room and there's like brand new people. It's a default mode. I trust everybody, or I distrust everybody.
Yeah. mine's very much trust everybody. I'm even naive or blue-eyed in certain sense, so I can't start you, I don't trust you. I can't even come up with anybody I would say I don't trust you per se. In a professional life, it might be like, do I trust you to do something? And then it's like, no, you're not the right man to do that. And that's a different level of trust.
And what happens?
But trusting people, I start with, kind of my default position is to trust people.
What happens if somebody breaks that trust? Do they give them another chance, or?
That depends probably on the situation, like what was the damage and how fair or unfair it appeared to be. One thing for sure, I mean, building up trust that takes time, and that needs to be kind of mutually building up trust in between, or trust in the relationship. Whereof breaking the trust can happen just very quickly. And I think building that trust up might be completely impossible, or might take a lot more trust, or sorry, much more time than to rebuild that trust was taken into pieces.
I think trust is a very important topic because it's what many of our relationships are built on. And I mean, me being able to ask you these questions also takes a certain amount of trust.
Sure.
Right? Like I wouldn't be able to ask them if I didn't see you being mentored before, and if I didn't know that you can handle it. But of course, as a mentor, my job is also to figure out what are the breaking points.
Sure.
But let's not do that on stage. But in the end, that's where I think you learn a lot. And that's why I asked the question about whether you think a person you don't trust can be a mentor. And I think here it's like, for example, for me, I wouldn't want a person I don't trust to be my permanent mentor. It would not be very pleasant.
Sure.
But at the same time, I feel that very often a person I distrust or have a dislink with, it's an opportunity to learn, because we have this feeling, negative feeling, and then you can learn about it. Like, is it just my feeling? Is it a mutual feeling? What happens if I explore it? So anything that makes you feel kind of weary or bad, to me, I'm very often fail at that, but I feel that it's data that I can use. It's data that I can work with.
So this is what I was thinking with this relationship being fairly uncomfortable, but there's still this trust that just needs to be. I mean, if I don't trust you, then there's very little opportunity that I'd actually open up and I'd really see what I, come into this.
But beyond trust, what do you think makes a good mentor? Like, what do you look for?
Personally, for me, I think it needs to be quite different than kind of personality-wise. As more diverse, it's better. I think if you're very same type of the person, it quickly becomes this kind of potentially a friendship, or being kind of too much of a battle with your mentor, and I don't think that's good. I think this challenge in there, learning, being able to listen to somebody and understand somebody who can see things from a different perspective is exactly why you do that. This is what you need. That's one thing. I think having a mentor as a founder, perhaps it means the mentor needs to understand the world you're living, more or less. It doesn't need to be exactly the same space, or it doesn't really matter even the experience. Do you have the same amount of experience, or less or more, or what nationality you are? That was also interesting for me, is like, I really appreciate my mentors are from a different part of the world. They see automatically, they see things differently. And I work currently with a lot of Latin people and Spanish people, and it's so different day in, day out, how they think, how they see things, what matters to them, what doesn't, and so forth. So I think that adds all, that builds on this mentorship, or this role and relationship in between.
Do you find that there are people in your life who don't have the mentor title for you, but still act for you as a mentor?
Certainly. I think your kids are your really good mentors. They teach you a lot of lessons in life. So then your family is a lot of friends, friends from complete different, you know, lifestyles or you know, different areas in sports, for example. But I still think I appreciate this formal relationship of being a mentee, having a mentor as well. I think it builds this kind of certain discipline into this relationship.
It's like having a sports coach versus going with friends, right?
Sure,
So
sure. And you can always go back there. One is hopefully pretty demanding to you. You know you need to do the exercise still. One is only a coach. I mean, if you want to win that next Olympic there, you got to do the exercise, obviously. But this kind of formality is, particularly for me, perhaps, is really important. So even you have all other mentors around you, I still feel that is something that gives back to me a lot.
And,
My mentors are just a real pain in the ass, like complete. I mean, like it's like I was really happy to learn that you do the same exercises. I've been so many times. It's like, hey, you do it yourself because it's like it's odd, and this is the level of kind of discomfort. This is where you actually develop.
I know your mentor, and I can tell you that the exercises he gives you, he does that like 10x every day, for sure. I think that is an important part. That if you're a mentor, to me it's very important that I do what I preach. Right? If I talk about full responsibility, a room full of people, right? I have to actually do it. That's one of the reasons I do the talks. Right? And they hold me responsible too. And everybody goes, oh, you're the full responsibility guy. And I cannot then say, well, you know what, like, actually, I think it's your fault.
Today I have a day off. So
yeah, like, I'm day off from full responsibility, guys. Sorry, like, you know, today the government really screwed up, and my employees are not doing what I want. I can't do that. So I think as a mentor, that's the thing that really helps you, because you are then creating reverse responsibility. So the next level of full responsibility is also to realize that, like the ultimate level, so you have full responsibility for you, but then you have full responsibility for everybody else as well. And that's like the next level, because then you're like, oh wow, I have responsibility for everything.
Right.
And that's difficult, because then you have like ethical questions, and I start thinking about like, how do I interact with the world? What am I doing? Is it good for people? Things like that. But I think for me also, like when it comes to mentoring, like I think when I mentor, I also want to help people to understand that everybody can be your mentor. Like my biggest mentor is my girlfriend. Right?
Sure.
She's like by far, like not even close, the biggest mentor in my whole life. Since being together, I've learned more about life than I have in the past 30 years. Right? But I also see mentorship in everything else. Right? Like situations, people, if somebody I meet for like 10 minutes and ask a question for like, you know, that's my mentor. So everybody.
Do you have this formal mentor relationship?
Unfortunately not. I actually would like to. I mean, I have informal people who are sometimes mentors, like, you know, Rain and Skinner and people like that, my best friend. But it's not been agreed, hey, you are my mentor, I'm your mentee, on paper or in any official capacity. And that's what I said in the beginning, that I actually, it's unfortunate that I didn't have one. So in that sense, it's fortunate that I've learned to, taking full responsibility here, that I've learned to see a mentor in everyone, in everything that happens to me. Because I think it's really important to have a mentor. The same way it's important to have, you know, family, parents, everybody has parents. But unfortunately, if you don't have a parent, that can happen. Then the kid tries to bond to someone.
Yes.
To someone else, right? Like if there's no parent, you have to bond to someone. And I think with mentorship, it's kind of similar. I would call it mentorship, it can be friendship. Like if you have that gap, you will start looking like how to fix it, how can I learn? How can I grow forward? And some people find books, some people find courses, some people find something. But I feel that it's an intrinsic, that word. You got it, right? It's that thing that, you know, we have an inherent desire to learn and move forward, and that is a mentor. And it can be a person, it can be a book, it can be a course, it can be anything. The danger is when you don't learn.
No, sure.
And then I think it's very important to try to find that.
So how much time you put in that? you know, mentoring startups or founders or anybody else really? In a kind of formal way, in a like the relationship we have, like you take time. There's a this 1 hour.
Okay, in a formal way, I currently do 1, 2, 3, 4 companies where it's more like ongoing. I think I have a capacity for maybe 5, and then I would not want to have any official ones. But then I do the Telegram group where it's anybody can ask me a question. I find that the way to mentor myself. The questions that I was even trying at some point to try to be a mentor for myself. And in my journal, I asked myself a question per day, and then I wrote down the answer.
That's a really good one.
Like random question. I mean, by the end of the day, I had to have an answer. But it still didn't work as well as getting the question from a person.
It is, but I use something I call Solo Day, which is, I try to do it at least once a month and just spend time with myself, with no phones and computers, and just have my notebook and, spend some time to look at the things from a distance, a different perspective, and it can be pretty challenging, especially in the morning, like feeling like you're stealing your time, but very, very productive in there. But I still feel the kind of mentor relationship is needed. I mean, you're going to go crazy if you're lonely, spending too much time with yourself. That's going to be this.
I mean, well, 1 day, a month, did you say?
Yes.
1 day a month is by far more time alone than many people, right? Like, I think in our day and age, you're almost never alone, right? Even if you're alone, you have your phone, and then you have like 200 people there that you're talking to. Like, what? I recently spent like literally 2 hours alone. I was like, wow, this is like the first time in a very long time. But I think it's important because that helps you to understand your internal processes, because if you don't do that, you're always distracted by the stimuli coming from the outside. I think that's a good practice.
Tell a little bit more about the shadow mentoring as well. What is this stuff? I mean, that's not very common.
No, not at all, actually. But it is very interesting. So the shadow mentoring concept is when Ryan, for example, gets mentored, I, as a shadow mentor, just sit on the phone and listen. And I do nothing. I cannot interrupt, I cannot say anything, nothing. But what is interesting about it, at first I was actually very skeptical of the concept, like having a third person listening in the background.
Me too.
I was like, this trust thing comes up and you're like, what's this all about? But what I figured out is that when you're talking yourself, you don't have time to reflect and make notes and to think about what has been said. Maybe you missed something. So having a second opinion. So after the call, we have a call with Skinner and then talk about what went on. And then I will then try to figure out what was missed, what was not discussed, what were maybe some subtleties that another person can pick up on that the other person didn't. Because we all have our own way of seeing the world. So when you speak to a mentor, he or she will pick up their strongest concepts that resonate with them. But with me, it might be something completely else. And then now you have 2 perspectives to work with, and I think that can be very useful. I think we're running out of time, but do we have time for questions? So the audience? Cool. Anybody? Questions? Yeah? Theo. I don't know the name of everybody, but...
So you were saying that the next level of responsibility is what? And I missed that you didn't say about that. Do we need to be responsible for others or not?
Yeah, my feeling is that the next level of responsibility is when you realize, after you've gone through the process that you're fully responsible for everything in your life, that then you take it and be also responsible for the life of everybody around you. Right? So a lot of people think that responsibility is a zero-sum game. Right? So say, for example, you come to, say an employee comes and says, you know what, I made a mistake, and the person we're supposed to hire got away, and then that's a mistake. And then the other person goes, oh, that's really bad, how are we going to tell the boss? And then basically what they're doing is they're figuring out who is more responsible. And they think it's 100% total responsibility. Right? They'll be like, well, it's your fault because you didn't read a manual of how to hire people. And be like, well, I did read the manual, but there's 70 pages, and I just got bored, and I didn't read page 26 in small script. Like, well, it's your job to do that. And then they play this responsibility ping pong, right? I'd be like, I don't want to be responsible, take it back. But the reality is, if everybody realized that this person is fully responsible 100% for writing the manual and they fucked up, and this person is fully responsible 100% for making the job end, then the conversation will be totally different, right? Then they would be like, you know what, I made a mistake with the hiring, but I think I can improve it by changing the wording in the employee manual. And the other person will be like, yeah, you're right, there could have been a mistake, but let's work together now and bring to the CEO the problem in the processes, and maybe we can make our company function better. Right? And that's a totally different world to live in. So if more people take full responsibility for not just themselves but others, it's not a zero-sum game. Everybody can have 100%, and it adds up to more than 100. Sorry, it's a long answer.
Hi, I might have missed the beginning of the talk, so apologies if you've covered this, but how do you find a mentor? And indeed, how do you then approach them in the right way to get a good response?
How do you find a mentor and how do you approach them? That's on you.
This mentorship or this relationships I am right now, this is a design program, and that's very unique to me. That's actually beautiful. It's much bigger than those one-on-one sessions in there. But prior to that, you're gonna know that. I mean, you're gonna be hit by the person who effectively has a lot of influence and could be a good mentor to you. Usually it starts like pretty much this, and oftentimes it's not formal. I mean, it's not really formalized. It just happens in there. There's no contract. There's no fees paid or anything like that. It might be some of your, in the field of business or completely random actually in there. I've been actually looking for certain people quite specifically, like looking for, asking even people like if they'd be my mentor. And I think equally to what you said, I mean, it's not. It's really beautiful to have one mentor. It's even better having two. Probably it's not like the more the merrier. Like have 10 mentors. It's getting too opinionated perhaps. But having two or having three is not a bad thing. I trust this guy there to be my mentor on certain matters, and I trust Dima here to do the same for different matters. And I think that just builds, and you need to feel it. What's right for you.
I mean, also take full responsibility and take action. Right? Like one company I'm mentoring now, the founder, he came up to me at one point and said, hey, you know what, can I have lunch with you once a week on Thursdays at 12?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, let's do it. Right? So for 1 year, we were just having lunch. I learned a lot from him. He learned from me. For 1 year, no monetary transaction, nothing. We were just having lunch. We missed a few, but we were having it quite consistently. And then recently he said, you know what, let's make this official now. I want you to be an advisor on the board, and I want you to help, and just approach and say, hey, can I do this? So just take action.
Mike, yeah, my mic is on. Thank you, guys. So actually, one thing I want to say, those who heard the speak of Alan Martinson, I said, he was one of my mentors when I did my first fucked up startup. And Ryan was actually the main guy, who was my first mentor ever. Woo! Thank you.
Thank you.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.